Hello, Shabab. Salam alaikum. We're going to start off this week talking about exactly the same topic that we talked about last week, but we're going to look at it in a practical sense and see how we can understand our emotional health or the emotional health of our children, our clients, our students, our younger brothers and sisters, or whoever that we're concerned about, whoever that we're trying to help. Okay. So we talked about the self-discrepancy theory, right? And this is a way of looking at emotional health, and we can get an index from that to actually rate our emotional health, and we can try to improve on that as we go along or as we evaluate whoever we happen to be working with. Okay. So just to recap very briefly, this theory says that there's three parts of the self. The first part is the actual. That's your actual characteristics, your actual abilities, your actual talents, who you actually are as a person, right? That's the actual self. Then you have the ideal self. The ideal self is your projected self. That's who you would like to be. That's who you aspire to be. That's who you see yourself as being in the future. That's the standard that you have for yourself. That's the ideal self. And then you have the third self, which is the ought. The ought is the expectations that people have for you, how the world sees you and what the world expects of you as a person. And so when these three selves are lined up, the person is said to be at ease. They're said to be content. They're said to be happy with their life. Where they want to be as a person is where they actually are as a person, and is also how people look at them as a person in terms of the expectations and what they expect from them. Okay, so when these three all lined up, the person is said to be very happy, to be very content. When there is a large discrepancy between those, then when there is some discrepancy between those, then it's said that the person is going to be going through emotional stress. So we're going to look at how we can try to line those up. Okay. One very important thing to mention is that the ought changes depending on the situation. So remember, the ought is the expectations that people have of you or of your client or of your student. That changes from situation to situation. So in some situations, the ought could be a parent. Some situations it could be a teacher. Some situations it could be the peers of that student. Whoever that child holds to be important regarding that particular matter is the ought, right? So if you have a 16-year-old or 17-year-old girl, for example, and she's not very confident in how she looks, right? Sometimes, depending on the situation, she's not going to be too impressed by her 80-year-old grandmother telling her that she looks beautiful, because that's not the audience that she wants. That's not the opinion that she holds dear. So when we talk about expectations of others, for her in that situation, she wants to hear someone in her peer group. She wants to hear other girls at her school tell her that she looks beautiful. She may want to hear boys in her peer group tell her that she looks beautiful. So the grandmother or the grandfather's opinion of her would not be the order in that particular situation, but that could change, right? So if you're talking about academics, for instance, the student may want to hear the teacher say, she's smart, she's talented, she has the ability. That might be what she holds important in that regard, right? Instead of the peers. So it can change from situation to situation, right? So that's the important thing to say about the ought. Now, what I want to get at in terms of the students is that one big mistake that many teachers make in special education, people working with students, coaches, even parents, is that they focus on the idea and do not focus on the actual, right? The actual needs something concrete in order to line up to the idea. And let me explain what I mean by that. A lot of times when a student isn't doing well, when they're failing, when they're having some difficulty, when they're having some problems, the adult in their life simply says it's going to be better. You're gonna do better. You can do better. And they simply just give words of encouragement or words of motivation or words of insurance. And these words are very important. They're very important, but it doesn't stop there. That does not relieve the stress. That doesn't change the depression. That doesn't change the self-image, right? Because that's just one piece of the puzzle. That's just one part of the self. You're just dealing with the idea, but you have to deal with the actual. You cannot simply try to encourage a student and not deal with the actual. So what do I mean by that? If the student's struggling in school, you simply can't say, you can do it, you can get better grades, you can do better. No, you have to look at the situation, see why is the child struggling, and you have to give them something concrete. You have to give them perhaps a tutor. Perhaps they have some type of learning disability that they need to get diagnosed. And the purpose of getting diagnosed is that you learn how to teach the child. You learn what the weakness of the child is, and you cater to the child's strengths while minimizing the weakness and helping the child learn better. So the child needs something concrete, doesn't just need encouragement, because he or she is going to be in the same situation, right? If you have a child that's been struggling for 2 years, 3 years to try to match up with the peers, and you simply say, you can do better, right? It's good encouragement. This is good for the self-esteem. It might be good for the idea, but it doesn't resolve the emotional stress, because he's not going to be able to do better if you don't give him the tools. So you have to look at the actual. And so many people, when they're working with children, forget to look at the actual. If you're looking at a child who they're playing football, they're playing soccer, they're not good, they had a bad game, they really sucked. They went out there, they embarrassed themselves. What do we all do? Don't worry about it. It's no problem. You'll do better next time. That's not enough. That's not enough, because what happens is they keep failing, they keep doing poorly, and nothing changes. You have to also look at the actual, where the child really is, what the child is really doing, what abilities the child really has. If he's not good in soccer, he needs to play more. He needs to practice more. You need to teach him the skills. You need to give him the coach. You need to have him watch videos on YouTube. You need to teach him how to defend. You have to change the actual, right? Just motivating and encouragement will not change the situation. And this is something especially, it's everywhere. It's in Sudan, it's in Mossad, it's in America. Every place I go, I see people that work with children, and they just want to talk them into a better situation. You can't talk someone into a better situation. You can push them into a better situation. You can move them into a better situation by giving them the tools that they need to improve themselves. Same thing if you're talking about finances, right? Somebody's broke, they don't have a job, they can't pay their bills. You can talk to them till you're blue in the face and say, hey, you're going to make it. Things are going to be all right. That's not going to change anything. They need a job, or they need job skills, or they need money, or they need something that's going to change their situation, right? So always keep this in mind. No matter who we're working with, we don't just want to motivate. We don't just want to give emotional support. Those things are fine, but those are only in the what? In the ideal self. They're only in the ideal self. They don't go to the actual self, meaning that they don't change the person. They don't give them tools to change themselves, right? So, you can go on and on. If you could talk about a child who, for instance, is being bullied at school. You say, okay, don't worry about it. A lot of people do this. Don't worry about it. Don't care what they say. Don't worry about it. The child is beat up. The child is assaulted. The child is picked on. Don't worry about it. It's not important what they say. It's important for two reasons. There's two mistakes in that. The first mistake is the ought. The ought is, in this situation, when you're talking about a peer situation, what other people say is of utmost importance. When you're talking about social situations for a child, what other people say is of utmost importance. It might not be important for you at 35 or at 40 years old, but when you're 12 years old, 13 years old, that's everything, right? So the ought is different in that child situation. Second thing is just trying to encourage the child, not going to change the situation for the child, because the children are still going to pick on them. So you have to give them some tools. You have to give them some verbal tools. You have to give them some strategic tools, where to go, what to say, what to do. If they're being physically attacked, they need some karate tools. They need some boxing tools. They need some wrestling tools to be able to defend themselves, to stop getting beaten up, right? But just talking to children and encouraging them will not relieve the depression or relieve their low or depressed emotional state. You have to change their reality. This is the biggest mistake that people make when dealing with children, that they want to talk them into a better situation, and then they wonder, well, I wonder why the child didn't, why what I said didn't have an effect, because talking to them, no matter how sincere you are, if you're not giving them tools, it won't help, right? Even with adults, if you have an adult who, he doesn't like the way he looks, he feels he's overweight, or she doesn't like the way she looks, she doesn't feel that she's beautiful, or what have you. Now, if these things are legitimate, now if these things are something that's due to um, uh, cultural norms, or they're due to society telling him or her that their natural features aren't beautiful, then this is a different situation. But if these things are legitimate concerns, perhaps the person's overweight, perhaps the person isn't a nice dresser, they're not a snappy dresser. Um, if they're actual practical things, then you need to help that person take practical steps. So they may need to lose weight, they may need to start exercising, they may need to do things to make his or herself feel more beautiful, right? You have to do the actual things to change the self, right? Not just support them, not just nice words, right? So they may need a workout plan. They may need a shopping plan. They may need to learn how to dress better. I've had students that were picked on because they didn't wear deodorant. The clothes were untidy. They had a smell. Their hair wasn't done. Children made fun of them. And teachers would simply say, don't pay attention what other students say about you, so forth and so on. But you know what? You got to teach that child. You got to help that. You got to give that child the tools to change themselves. They might need social tools. They might need tools. Hey, this is how you talk to people. This is how you make friends. This is how you participate in activities in class. This is how you groom yourself. They might need lessons in grooming themselves and dressing themselves and doing whatever. But the main focus of what I wanted to get at in this video is always address every part of the self. Don't just go for one part. Don't just go for one part. Always consider who the child holds important. And then you can use who the child holds important to get to the child, to access the child, right? So if we're talking about a school situation, peer groups are good. An older brother are good. If you have older brothers, or kind of like imaginary older brothers in a school situation. So you have a freshman that just coming into the high school, and you team them up with someone who is in 11th grade or 12th grade that helps them, kind of is a mentor for them, helps them bring along their self-esteem and things like that. They're going to value what that person is telling them and what that person is saying to them more than they're going to value a father that's 55 or 60 years old, right? And so the point is, use the ought and find the person that person finds to be significant and important, and use that individual to get to the student and raise their self-esteem and raise their self-confidence. That's the important thing. Second thing, don't just focus on the idea of self. This is what we all do as teachers, as practitioners, people that work in mental health. We always focus on the idea. We can just encourage the person and all the problems are going away. But you know what? If you're broke, after you leave the talk, you're still going to be broke. If you're fat and overweight, after you leave the talk, you're still going to be fat, overweight, out of shape, high blood pressure, not feeling good. Nothing's going to change, right? If you're not doing well in school, you're not good at math, you're not good at history or social studies, you're still going to leave after the talk not being good at history or social studies. So any type of talk or any type of encouragement is only going to be temporary. It's only going to last for the few minutes that you're in the session or that you're talking to the professional. But you need to leave that session with something concrete that you can actually use to change your life. So we always have to focus on all three parts of the self: actual, idea, and ought. And if you didn't see the first video, check it out. And hopefully this is something that you can use with your clients, with your students, to help improve their situation.